Burbank, the media capital of the world.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a meeting of the Burbank City Council for Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. Mayor Frutos is out of town and unable to attend tonight's meeting. As Vice Mayor, I'm honored to step in and serve as presiding officer this evening. As a reminder, during the current state of emergency due to COVID-19, and in the interest of public health and safety, the public will not be able to physically attend today's meeting. In lieu of in-person attendance, the city is providing alternatives for viewing and participating in city council meetings. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Mullins, good evening.
Good evening.
Will you please conduct a roll call?
Thank you. Councilmember Anthony?
Present.
Councilmember Schultz?
Present.
Councilmember Springer?
Here.
And Vice Mayor Talamantes?
Present.
Noting the absence of Mayor Frutos.
Thank you. There will be one period of general public comment tonight. If you would like to participate, please call now at 818-238-3335. That's one more time, 818-238-3335. Callers will be placed in a queue until we begin public comment. We have two announcements on city business this evening. It was formally announced that beginning August 10th, the council chambers would be open to the general public for in-person attendance at the city council meetings. However, due to the ongoing emergency due to COVID-19 and in the interest of public health and safety, the council chambers will not be open to the public on August 10th. The public may still view council meetings online or on television and may submit e-comments, email the city council, or call in via telephone for public comment. We hope to hold in-person council meetings again in the near future. The Burbank City Clerk's Office is currently accepting applications for one vacancy on the Community Development Goals Committee for an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2022. The deadline to submit an application is Thursday, August 19th, 2021 at 5 p.m. If you are interested in serving your community, you may apply online at burbankca.gov/BCC application. One more time, that's burbankca.gov/BCC application. For more information, please contact the Burbank City Clerk's Office at 818-238-5851 or email cityclerks@burbankca.gov. As a reminder, if you would like to participate in general public comment, please call now at 818-238-3335. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I do not have anything to report for tonight.
Excellent. Will the City Attorney please report on closed session?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, and staff. Council met earlier this afternoon on two different closed session matters. One was anticipated litigation with city as a potential plaintiff pursuant to Government Code Section 54, 956.9 subsection D4. The second matter was real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54, 956.8 concerning 1250 East Harvard Road, Burbank, which is known as the Castaway Restaurant, negotiating with Mr. Talichet, President and CEO of the Specialty Restaurant Corporation, city negotiators, the real estate and project manager, as well as Assistant Community Development Director of Business and Economic Development, under negotiation, price and terms for a lease extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Now is the time for general public comment. Members of the public may address the council for up to 3 minutes on any matter concerning city business. Remember to lower the volume on your TV or computer and take your phone off the speaker when you deliver public comment. To participate, please call 818-238-3335. Once again, that's 818-238-3335. Ms. Mullins, do we have any callers on line for the public comment?
Mr. Mayor, it looks like a call is coming through, so if you give me a minute, we didn't have any in queue, but I
Sure.
read there's one right now, okay?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Our first caller is George.
Hello. I'd like to reference the agenda item 4 about raising the speed limit on the selected streets of San Fernando Road. I'm intimately knowledgeable about the traffic in the city of Burbank, and any opportunity to raise speed limits is a big mistake. If the numbers are low because of the whatever formula they use to determine it needs to be raised, I think it's good that the numbers are low, that we have a low amount of accidents. If you increase the speed, all you're going to do is increase the amount of accidents there. Believe me, there's not enough enforcement to control the speed there anyways. So to raise it, it's not going to accomplish anything except give the drivers an excuse to speed. And if anybody lives in this town and they drive for 5 minutes, you're going to witness speeding like you don't see in other cities. So please, I think it's a big mistake to increase it. I understand the logic of why they do these things, traffic engineer related. I mean, why they come to those conclusions. It's a big mistake. How about table it? How about just wait a little while? We have an epidemic of people speeding in the city, and it's not going to be addressed by you increasing the speed limits. Okay, that's my 2 cents on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other callers, Ms. Mullins?
Yes, one more call.
Our next caller is Mike Hollis.
Welcome, Mr. Hollis.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mike Hollis, and I just sorry about that. My name is Mike Hollis, speaking to you on behalf of Walk Like Burbank. As you know, Walk Like Burbank is a local chapter of the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition. I'm speaking tonight on item number 4 on your agenda, and to express my disappointment with the reason we are discussing this particular section on San Fernando Road. Instead of talking about raising speed limits on this 3/4 mile section of road, the city should be addressing the existing plan for a Class 1 bicycle path as it is described in the Burbank Bicycle Master Plan of 12 years ago. It seems we are in a great rush to increase the speed limit along San Fernando while giving little priority to the need for an off-street bicycle path. Without this path in place, you throw bicycles to a worn-down street with commercial traffic. Raising the speed limit now is the wrong priority. We need to make the street safe for bicycles and pedestrians, and then talk about the possibility of raising the speed limit. Further, we should wait until we see the outcome of AB 43, which may change the way we determine the speed limit on streets. Until then, it's premature to raise the speed limit. In conclusion, I would ask that you would reject item 4 on the agenda and that you would instruct staff to prioritize the Class 1 bike path that is called for on the Bicycle Master Plan. Until that's done, speed limits should stay where they are. Finally, I ask that you, as our elected representatives, support AB 43 so that you have better means of controlling speed and keep everyone on the street safer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other callers?
Well, call is coming through. There's nothing in the queue right now, but it is coming through.
Our next caller is Renee.
Welcome.
Oh, welcome. Oh, hi. I just wanted to say I noticed the improvements that you're making on the sidewalks, which are really great, and I appreciate it. But I just hopefully you guys will be aware and eventually get to the alleys, because a lot of the alleys are really jacked up. It's not very smooth pavement anymore. So I just want to throw that out there. The sidewalks, you guys are doing a great job, and hopefully eventually you'll get to the alley. Okay, thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening.
Thank you.
So we don't have any more callers in the queue, and I don't see anything coming through right now.
Okay,
So it's
thank you
safe
very
to move
much.
forward and close.
So there being no further public comment, I now declare the public comment period closed. Now is the time for a brief response from City Council, the City Manager, and/or the City Attorney. My colleagues, any response to any of the comments or the callers? Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. For the first two callers, thank you very much. This is Mr. Hollis and George. Thank you for calling regarding agenda item 4. I'll save any other comments when we get that agenda item. But for the last caller, Renee, I'm hoping maybe staff could follow up or provide her a little more information offline about alleyway projects, if that's something we're able to do.
Anyone else, of the colleagues? Oh, Councilmember Springer?
I too would like to thank the callers, and will address Mr. Hollis and George's comments in item 4. And thank you, Renee, for calling, and we will follow up and have staff check into that. Thank you.
Councilmember Anthony?
I just want to echo the statements of my fellow council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, everybody, for calling in and sharing your concerns and thoughts with us. The consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. Ms. Mullins, please read the consent calendar.
Thank you. Consent calendar, item number 1, adoption of an ordinance amending Burbank Municipal Code, Section 2-1-901, evaluation and payment of claims, and Section 2-1-308, subsection E, settlement authority. Item 2, City Council minutes for approve the minutes for regular meeting of July 13 and the community meeting of July 20th. Item 3, adoption of resolution authorizing acceptance of the 2020 Urban Area Security Initiative grant for $633,753 and amending the fiscal year 2021-22 budget by appropriating funds. This concludes our 3 items on the agenda.
Thank you. Before we move on to the motion, I'd like to ask the Chief Garcia to give us a little Reader's Digest version of what 3 entails. What are we getting those monies for? I think the public needs to be aware that we're being so proactive. Chief Garcia?
Hi, Vice Mayor and Council, Eric Garcia, Fire Chief. And yeah, just a quick version of what it is. Both police and fire will be receiving these dollars for the ongoing interoperability training and equipment for the LA area region. These are important dollars. This was all initiated back from after 9/11. And in that, we've been able to take advantage of those dollars to, again, enhance us with our Type 1 hazmat. Sorry, we're going to get a call here in just a moment. Sorry about that. But in that, continuing, the dollars that we're going to receive from this enable us, again, from our Type 1 hazmat team to be able to continue operating at a high level. That Type 1 hazmat team is part of the state Cal OES system. So those dollars are utilized to maintain our equipment, training, and our proficiency in that. In addition, we'll also be able to receive those dollars to enhance our technical rescue components too, and active shooter training. So all things that, from an interoperability standpoint, not one jurisdiction would be able to kind of tackle one of those types of incidents on their own. So again, the interoperability that we have amongst the area fire departments as well as police departments is vital, and we rely heavily on those. And again, very proactive in wanting to continue our training and our equipment. So we're real thankful for that.
Can you give us a total amount and how much the fire and how much police is getting?
Sure. As was mentioned, the total is going to be $633,000, and to that, fire is going to see $330,000 of that, and PD will see $303,000 and some change in that. For the two totals of that equaling $630,000. So again, big opportunities for us to continue and enhancing our again training and equipment that keep us again proficient in those areas and those disciplines.
Great, thank you very much for that update. Is anybody from PD that's willing, would like to add anything to what just the chief mentioned? Okay, hearing none. So I'll let.
Yes, I can weigh in, Vice Mayor.
Yes, Chief, weigh in, please.
Okay, they're gonna.
There you are.
Video. Give me 1 second here. I'm.
Must be some training going in that direction.
Oh goodness. Can you hear me? I don't know
Yes,
if
you're coming over
see me.
loud and clear, sir.
Okay, great. So on the PD side of the grant that Chief Garcia was talking about, we also were the benefactor of some grant monies to include a software system that is specific to cybersecurity, firewall capabilities. We also are the benefactor of monies for our personal protection equipment. In addition to, there's some upgrades, replacement of some very dated equipment on our airships, and to the tune of $95,000 for the aviation audio and instrument panel updates. Those were really dated systems that we have, so we're getting new systems, replacement equipment for that. And then there's also counterterrorism training that will be funding for that training on the horizon. So for us, it was a total of $303,000.
Great, thank you very much, Chief. Thank you both, Chiefs. So now I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Councilmember Schultz and Councilmember Springer.
Councilmember Schultz?
Yes.
Councilmember Springer?
Yes.
Councilmember Anthony?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tolmantas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are two reports to council this evening. The first report is for the introduction of an ordinance amending section 6-1-1501 of the Burbank Municipal Code relating to speed limits. Will Public Works Director Ken Berkman please commence the report?
Good evening, Honorable Vice Mayor and City Council. Pleasure to be before you again. Very pleased to present this to you, and more importantly, to introduce you to our new Traffic Engineering Manager, Edward Yu, who will present the report.
Great.
Mr. Yu.
Good evening, Honorable Vice Mayor and council members. I'm here to present the agenda item amending the section 6-1-1501 of the city's municipal code relating to prima facie speed limits on city streets. The speed limits are determined by the Public Works Department and the Burbank Police Department in accordance with legal requirements of the California Vehicle Code sections 22348 to 22413 and speed zoning guidelines in the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices for the MUTCD. The speed limits are based upon street conditions and prevailing speeds using standard survey procedures developed in engineering and traffic survey. The prevailing speed is the speed at which 85% of the motorists are traveling at or below, and is used as reference to establish speed limits based upon the concept that the majority of the drivers will drive at a speed which they judge to be safe and proper. The streets must be resurveyed and validated every 5 years and can be extended up to 7 to 10 years if certain criteria are met. City staff, for this report, city staff analyzed 87 existing speed segments that must be analyzed per the city code and based upon the survey that was conducted. There are only 2 segments that require revisions. San Fernando Boulevard North, which is the segment north of the railroad tracks, between the north city limit and Winona Avenue, based upon the survey, should be increased from 30 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour. And then the other section is San Fernando Boulevard between the north city limit and Winona Avenue. The survey revealed that the speed limit should be increased from 35 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour. The speed limits in all other segments will remain the same. Staff is recommending that the City Council introduces an ordinance amending Section 6-1-150 of the VMC. Once the ordinance is in effect, it will remain so for 7 years and will allow Burbank Police Department to legally enforce the posted speed limits throughout the city. This concludes the staff report. Director Berkman, Traffic Sergeant Stone, and I are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any response to one of the speakers that made a comment in public comment from either Mr. Berkman or?
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, the one thing I can touch upon is with regard to the request by the constituent for a separated bike lane. We are in design for that bike lane right now in this specific section, so I'm pleased to let Council and the public know about that.
Okay, thank you. So is there any, Councilmember Springer?
Berkman, could you please define a Class 1 bikeway?
Yeah, it's a completely separated bike lane from the roadway.
Timing on that?
I'm sorry, you broke up there?
What's the timing on that?
I'm not exactly sure right now. I believe it's in the Community Development Department, I think right now, so I'm not sure of the exact timing.
Is Mr. Prescott here? Can he answer that?
I do not see Mr. Prescott here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. I did get some information about that. Design completion is expected by spring 2023.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the response. Councilmember Schultz, Councilmember Springer, are you not through?
You can wait until Councilmember Schultz asks his questions because I have several more and just some suggestions.
Okay, well, just go ahead. Ladies first.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Can somebody please fill us in on AB 43? And would it not be a good idea to wait until the legislature returns in mid-August? Because it's probably just a few months before that will be considered. And that would allow us to change the consideration for raising or even lowering speed limits. Pedestrians and cyclists come into play, make decisions based on pedestrian and cyclist safety, and we can make determinations based on proximity to schools. And so can somebody please explain AB 43?
Yes, Council. AB 43, basically, it's gone through the Assembly. It's going to, I believe, the Senate Appropriations in mid-August. It has additional language to allow agencies to be flexible, setting speed limits where they see bicyclists, pedestrians, and as they say, vulnerable pedestrian groups like children or seniors or the homeless. Look at what we need to see the definition of they call high injury streets or business activity streets. So there are certain facets of the proposed bill that can accommodate a potential of an additional 5-mile-an-hour decrease in the posted speed limit. The reason we need to do this now is without doing this, we're at the end of our 7 years, and in some segments past that point, police department will not be able to enforce our speed limits unless this action is taken tonight and the second reading in a couple of weeks. The thing I would add, if I may, once the bill is put into law, and if council so desires, there are the opportunities to take a look at specific street segments. And if this is into law, we can use this law to address potential lowering of other street segments. But we do need to do this to make sure Burbank Police Department can enforce the posted speed limits.
Well, I think we should postpone it. I think we should continue it and wait for AB 43 and have staff analyze if these were recommendations for the speed limit increases are consistent with our complete street plan, with the policies in that plan. And also how AB 43 would affect our complete street plan and how it would enhance it. We have streets without sidewalks. These are de facto exercise routes, and in some of them I consider linear parks. And it doesn't. There are pedestrians in the street, there are cyclists, there are joggers, and it doesn't seem to impact the drivers at all. They do not slow down. I'm speaking of Riverside Drive and Sunset Canyon, and feel like we should continue it and consider AB 43, and then possibly we could carefully apply AB 43 to different streets in our city to further the goal of our complete street plan and the safety of our community. And if we didn't do this tonight, we could always do it later, could we not?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not time sensitive. I mean,
well, as I mentioned, Vice Mayor and Council, it is time sensitive because if you don't have an approved speed study, engineering and traffic study, your speed limits aren't enforceable. So I know Sergeant Stone is here, and if you'd like to verify that for me, I know that is a true statement.
please weigh in and add to the discussion. Yes, Madam Councilmember Springer?
I feel like increasing the speed limit rewards speeders. And I know it's hard for us to have the resources to put police patrol all over our city. And when was the last time it was patrolled for excessive speed? And I agree with the caller George's comment that maybe the traffic accidents are lower because the speed is lower. And if we raise them, the accidents will go up. And with Mr. Hollis's comment that a protected bike lane should be in place before we consider raising speed limits on that street. Because if speed limits are raised and you're on a bicycle and you get hit by a car, your chances of survival are very slim.
Okay.
And
all right. Anything else, Councilmember Springer? Thank you. The officer, could you weigh in on this discussion, please?
Yes, good evening, Vice Mayor, Councilmember. I'm Sergeant Fletcher Stone. I'm a supervisor in the Burbank PD Traffic Bureau. The main concern in this is the primary tool that we use to conduct speed enforcement, which is probably one of the best deterrents we have to get people to slow down, is the fear of receiving a speed citation, is done primarily through the use of laser. That is a time distance measuring device, and under 40802 of the vehicle code, it requires a valid traffic engineering survey on file at the time the citation was written. So if these surveys go past that 7-year mark, any citation that we would issue using those devices would immediately be dismissed. So we wouldn't be able to go out and conduct enforcement to try to deter people that are speeding. the 85th percentile is, unfortunately, that's what people are driving at. And the engineering traffic survey, the vehicle code is specific that you have to use that number in setting your prima facie speed limit. So without approving this for just these two segments of roadway, I know Councilmember Springer was worried about some other streets. Those aren't changing at this point and still would be evaluated by AB 43. We're only talking about that section of San Fernando, the two sections of San Fernando. I have personally gone out and worked enforcement there. So it is important that we are able to conduct enforcement in that roadway to deter those people from speeding. And that's what this is going to do for us.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Springer, let me have other colleagues weigh in, please. Anyone else wish to weigh in? Councilmember
Very
Schultz?
briefly.
Thank you.
Very briefly, Mr. Vice Mayor, thank you. Councilmember Springer actually asked several of the questions that I had planned for, so thank you for that, Councilmember. That was very much on my mind as well. So maybe just picking up where she left off, so perhaps staff can ask this. Aren't these two separate issues? And I'm just thinking as someone who's watching from home, right? I mean, on the one hand, you have to certify the study, but then separately, we also set the limits on each segment of roadway. So, this may seem simple to some of you, but I want to ask it anyway. Could we not certify the study and yet say, you know what, on those two segments of San Fernando, we actually want to hold serve, not raise the limit, and see if AB 43 goes into effect? Would that be within council's purview?
Mr. Yu, do you have an answer to that?
The council members bring up some very valid points here. The study wasn't done in its entirety. We could do a separate study for that. The point is that will AB 43, under the way it's currently proposed, will it make a change in the speed limit that we're raising? Under the guidelines that I'm familiar with on AB 43, it may not. It may not, because it talks about the high injury network. It talks about pedestrian activity. It talks about parking, and it talks about bike facilities and all these different things. Things that, as Councilmember Springer brought up, those will be coming. Those aren't here now. It may take some time to implement. Without doing a full analysis about what's being proposed and what we may not be able to lower the speed limit in those areas where AB 43 would apply until at a later moment when these additional facilities can be implemented. So I am reluctant to, as Sergeant Stone indicated, enforcement. There's three elements I always look for as a traffic engineer, the 3 E's, which is enforcement, and that's the best enforcement we have is to enforce a approved speed zone survey if they're on this section. Engineering, which is what we've done, and we're going to post appropriate signs and look at other ways of maybe potentially slowing down traffic, and education and making sure that everybody is aware of what's going on in the area. And I think we would be remiss not to take this opportunity to legalize this section for enforcement, because we don't know what the standing of AB 43 may be. And as Director Berkman indicated, we can, after AB 43 passes, look at these segments again to see if we can reevaluate it to meet the criteria in AB 43.
Thank you. I want to thank Sergeant Stone for weighing in and giving us his perspective. City Attorney wants to say a few words.
Thank you. I would just like to add to the answer to the question that Councilmember Schultz posed, because I appreciate everything that was just said by staff and totally understand, but I think the question as posed is there anything that prevents the council tonight to do everything that staff's asked, but to remove those two segments from consideration? And I don't believe that there's anything that precludes you from doing that. And what that would mean then is once, if that was the desire of the council majority, then once if the bill passes and becomes forward, staff can look at that, you can reconsider, you can either then add those segments back in into an ordinance, it can be brought back for consideration or a review of it. So appreciating everything that staff said and not disagreeing with you, but more from just a procedural legal point, the council most definitely could remove those segments that you're concerned about from this survey and this ordinance. So hopefully that helped. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Any other comments? Councilmember Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. We're talking about basically the section of San Fernando on both sides of the tracks from Hollywood Way almost all the way to Buena Vista, right? And ending there at Winona. Officer Stone mentioned that, the number one way for the police department to prevent speeding is to give out traffic citations. But that's not the number one way for cities to prevent speeding. The number one way is to build the infrastructure where people drive slower. Both of these streets are really wide open. There is nothing to slow people down at all. And, obviously we need to take a look at how we build that Golden State area in the future to keep drivers driving slower. But the numbers here, both sides of the street are rated as below the average accident rate to similar roadways in California. So I got to be honest, I don't think we need to fix what's not broken at this point. Both segments of this roadway are less than a mile long. I don't see any reason why BPD needs to go out there and start giving tickets in an area that had, one side 2 accidents in the last 3 years, and the other one only 6. Is there really an urgent need for us to go out there and start giving tickets? Do we have officers posted there in the last 3 years? Has this been a targeted area where we have radar and laser set up? Has that been a thing? Do we know?
Is Sergeant Stone still on?
Actually, yes, we have. With the establishment of the train station there at Hollywood Way, we did see an increase in pedestrian traffic. The intersection is a little confusing because you have the feeder from Hollywood Way, depending on what direction you're coming, so those lights aren't synced like a normal intersection. I've personally gone out, because I ride a motorcycle, and conducted speed enforcement in that area. So it is a concern. The potential for accidents is there, especially because there's a higher speed limit in the city of Los Angeles. So as people are coming into Burbank, they're traveling at that speed from Los Angeles. What this is going to do is allow us, to continue, and I can appreciate the fact that the infrastructure can help slow people down, but the infrastructure, I don't know, is going to be here soon enough, whereas we can take enforcement action now, we can educate people through stops, and be able to do that. So I think that, eventually, your idea, I think, has merit, but in the immediacy, if we receive a traffic complaint from somebody and it's speed related, which most of our traffic complaints are, and we want to go out and work that area, we wouldn't be able to without this survey, because the survey the speed limit would not match the survey, which would make any violation using LiDAR invalid in court.
How long is the period of this survey? Like, when did we take the survey and when did it end? When did it start and end?
Councilman, we took this survey, I can answer that. We took this survey in January 2020 through February 2021.
Okay, so almost a year. So if we were to do any sort of improvements, putting in flashing signals, walk lights, and anything like that, could we start a new survey and have it qualify within a year? Is that something possible? And then we would just sit for a year without an enforceable, 3/4 of a mile on either side?
We could do another survey if need be, if that's the council's direction. But again, during that time period, it would be unenforceable.
Do we have any planned improvements for that area? Any sort of infrastructure, lights, pedestrian walkways?
Not at this time, except for the separated bike lane.
When will that be put together? What's the timetable on that?
The design, I believe, spring 2023. And then construction would occur after that. I'd be guessing for a year and a half.
Okay. And from now until that time, if say theoretically we don't approve these two sections of street for the 85th percentile, and we have 2 quarter-mile stretches that are unenforceable, and we suddenly get a surge of problems in that area, is there any way for us to bring this same 2 sections back to us and approve an emergency ordinance to raise the speed limits? I mean, is there anything stopping us from doing that lickety-split if we need to?
Madam City Attorney, any comments?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to put myself back on video, sorry. Thank you. What I was going to say is I'll let the engineers and, Public Works answer the question as to can we bring those back and what will we need to do. And then obviously, there are times when council does adopt ordinances as an emergency. There's findings that need to be made pursuant to the charter, and that's something we can consider depending on the circumstances and if council then needs to do a 4/5 vote to have that. So the issue of whether it's emergency or not is something you can face at the time, but I think the engineers or the Public Works, sorry, if I'm getting the title wrong, can discuss in terms of bringing something back. Thank you.
Thank you. If my colleagues don't mind, let me weigh in. I see a way forward is go ahead and approve the plan that's before us tonight, with the exception of those 2 segments of roadways. They can always come back, or we can wait till what happens up in Sacramento. That would be my suggestion. Anyone else? Madam Springer, go ahead. Councilmember Springer.
So, Vice Mayor Talamantes, and Ms. Albano, so we would certify the study, but the signs would stay the same there. Is that correct? We would not raise the speed limit signs, and maybe we could put slow signs? Because this is part of the bicycle master plan. To me, it makes no sense to raise the speed limit on a roadway, and it's where bicycles are. It just endangers them. So yes, if we can certify it, take those sections out.
Right.
And support AB 43 and keep the speed limit signs the same and just put some slow signs entering Burbank or whatever's necessary. Thank you.
So if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
and again, Mr. Berkman, I think you might want to weigh in. How we do signage, there is a science to that, and so I would leave that to Mr. Berkman, but everything else you said and what's in front of you tonight is do you remove those segments, but not giving direction as to signage, since that is more than an art form. It's a way that there's legalities on how they do that and what they put up. And Mr. Berkman, if you'd like to add more to that, I just wanted to jump in on that part, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Albano. Councilmember Springer and council, you've seen our correspondence about this. Signage that is in the roadway needs to be legally enforceable. So while we don't know everything that's out in the roadways and residential, there are the slow, children at play, the things you see in the street. They're not enforceable. They can tend to be hazards also that we do not want in our right of way. So everything with what I'm hearing a potential motion could be approving the introduction of the ordinance amending our speed limits, except for the 2 segments of San Fernando Boulevard. That's fine. The speed limit signage will not change, but we cannot add any other warning type of signage for slow, if I heard that right. So thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Albano and council.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. Colleagues? Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'll just make a brief comment, and then unless anyone else has anything else, I think we have a solution, and I think we've reached consensus. But I just wanted to thank staff. I know it's not easy to put together a study of this magnitude, and I think we all appreciate that. And on the one hand, I understand that Assembly Bill 43 is not yet the law, but as we heard from the staff report, it very much looks like it will be. And I think that both Councilmember Springer and Councilmember Anthony put it really well when they said in their own way, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I think that keeping the speed limit there as is going to be the best interest of not only that portion of the community, it's going to give us flexibility moving forward. And my last sort of comment on that is, in theory, we could approve it now and raise the limit and lower it later, but we all know that that only adds to confusion. And once you tell someone they can go faster, they're never going to go slower later. So I think that the Vice Mayor's proposed solution is the right one. So unless any of my colleagues have anything else they want to add, I'm happy to make the motion. Oh,
I just want to add, to Officer Fletcher, if keep us apprised if there is a sudden uptick in complaints or accidents, we'd like to hear that.
I mean, Sergeant Stone.
Sergeant Stone, I'm sorry. Sergeant.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
So is there a second? Councilmember Springer? Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Schultz,
yes.
Councilmember Springer,
Yes.
Councilmember Anthony,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Talamantes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the discussion. Next item is the update on the Burbank Police Department's parking citation appeal and payment plan process for community members impacted by COVID-19 pandemic police department. So it will be given by Sergeant Fletcher Stone. Welcome back, Sergeant Stone.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm filling in for Lieutenant Fromer, who was originally doing the staff report. I believe Councilmember Anthony had a question as to how we did a payment plan for those who were suffering financial hardship as a result of COVID-19 and what we did. Currently, our program is established and is in compliance with section 40220 of the California Vehicle Code. And basically what that does is that allows for those who claim an indigency and meet certain criteria to have a payment plan. As of right now, we have 4 individuals who have applied for a payment plan, who met the criteria and who are on a payment and then are on that plan now. We've had no other requests under that since, I believe, the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm not sure if that was the one question that you had, sir, or if you have anything further.
Well, just, Mr. Vice Mayor, if I could.
Yes, go ahead.
Just some specifics on this. We've only had 4 people apply and all 4 people have been approved?
Correct.
Okay. Under the 40220, does it allow for local jurisdictions to reduce the total amount of the fees? Not just late fees, but the original citation as well?
That's not articulated in that specific section. I would probably have to defer to either the city attorney or Ms. Padgett about how the fee structure works.
Okay. The reason I bring that up, Mr. Vice Mayor, if I could, having a payment plan is great for some people to pay it over time, but at the end of the day, they're still paying a very, high amount of a parking ticket for that individual. If you don't have a job, if you're low income, the standard ticketing price for everyone else becomes a burden unto itself for, an individual who can't afford it. I was hoping to add an addition there that if somebody does qualify for this low income payment plan, that we could reduce the overall citation price as well, possibly even up to 50% if the council would like to agree with me on that. That's what I was hoping for.
I would be concerned in regards to what is this person doing that's getting ticketed over a period of time? Are they just disregarding the signage? Are they disregarding, obviously there's certain times during the day, during the week where we have street cleaning, a couple hour period depending on the time of the day that wherever you live. So
Well, I would assume us put in some sort of limit to how many reductions they can get, like maybe only the first or second offense, or one per year or something like that. If somebody's parking and getting tickets and tickets and tickets, I think that would be a different issue entirely. But I wouldn't mind at least the first one. The lesson learned. Okay, I'm not going to do it again, kind of thing. Give them a one-time break if they qualify for the low-income thing.
Any other comments, colleagues? The recommendation here is to note and file. So, Councilman Springer.
If we know the numbers for the citations for the previous year, a total will do.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Did you want total parking citations issued regardless of section?
I think that's a consistent comparison.
Okay. In calendar year 2019, we issued approximately 45,849 parking citations in the city that covered a multitude of sections, both of the Burbank Municipal Code and the Vehicle Code. In 2020, for the calendar year 2020, that number reduced to 24,076. So a pretty significant reduction. Obviously, that a lot of that had to do with the suspension of enforcement during the stay-at-home order.
Mm-hmm. So we have had a hard, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, we have had an actual reduction in citations from 2019, if that's an important consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Schultz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Mayor, and thank you to staff. I thought the report was very thorough and answered nearly all of my questions, but this is more perhaps directed at Councilmember Anthony. In reading the report, I understand that 75% of the citations, so they're all parking citations, right? 75% of which are from street sweeping. But to the Vice Mayor's point, you do have 25% that are from parking in disabled spaces, blocking, access points and alleyways. So, I think that if you wanted to continue the conversation, what I would certainly want to see, and not committing myself to any particular course of action, but it would depend very much on what kind of activity you're looking to provide relief for. I thought the report had some good references to LA Department of Transportation and some of their programs. One that I think might be worthy of future consideration is the early pay program, if I recall correctly, the one where if you pay the citation in full within 48 hours, you might get a small discount there for doing that. But I guess to get back on track, my question to you, Councilmember Anthony, is what specifically do you have in mind?
Yeah, I would say only those residential areas where people are hit with the street sweeping. I've gotten some folks talking to me about not being able to go into work and having to work from home. And the idea of street sweeping once a week, it slips their mind, right? And so they get this one ticket and they'll remember, they got the ticket, so they're not doing it again. They're not these repeat offenders that we talked about. I would not want someone to continuously take advantage of this program. But then they just can't pay that one fee, and then it goes into late fees, and then it snowballs from there. And so from my standpoint, doing something where they can pay up front at a reduced rate one time in one in every 3 years or so, a limit, or maybe just one per person ever. Something like that, just to get folks who fall, and we've only had 4, so I'm not talking about a huge chunk of people here. But for those individuals, it's tough. And so just having that extra qualifier, you have to qualify for low income, you have to pay the full amount, but it's a reduced amount and you only get the one chance to do it. That's,
Madam City Attorney, excuse me, would that be a discussion for a future agenda item?
So what I was going to say, sorry. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council. The item tonight, I know, was note and file, but it talks about what are the updates on what we can do? So I think it would be appropriate if the council majority wanted to give some direction to bring back a conversation, since you're already in the midst of it. The ins and outs, I think Councilmember Schultz was only asking Councilmember Anthony for what is it you're thinking about, especially since we gave examples of what some other jurisdictions may or may not be doing. But I think you can't vote on anything tonight other than to say,
Bring it back.
yeah, ask staff to bring back more information, because I think I heard Councilmember Schultz saying, I'd want a lot more information if we're going to consider anything else, so.
All right, thank you. Now, Sergeant, I've got a question in regards, didn't we waive any ticketing for a period of time during the past year and a half? Can you give me an idea of when?
We didn't waive ticketing, we just did not conduct enforcement during the stay-at-home order. If you give me 1 second, I can, we suspended enforcement action related to parking violations for specific sections that included street sweeping, overtime parking in the residential neighborhoods, and 72-hour parking, mainly because those would be the ones that were the greatest impact on those that had to stay home by the county order. That went into effect on March 17th, 2020, and then the council decided to conduct enforcement after that on September 29th. Effective October 1st, we went ahead and put out warnings to the community through city website, social media, and enforcement began October 15th of 2020.
Okay, thank you. So what's council's pleasure?
I would like to bring this back for another discussion item, if that's all right.
Any other comments? Councilmember Schultz?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to jump in if I might.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. To me, I'm of two minds about this. On the one hand, we've had our ordinance on the books. People are well aware of the risk of getting cited if they are parking in the wrong spot. On the other hand, I am cognizant of the fact that we did resume parking enforcement October 1, and that and staff can correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, please do, but we did continue to enforce even when we did go into that second lockdown and people were forced to, they were told to stay at home. And so, I could see a scenario, Councilmember Anthony, where I might support some sort of relief to folks that were ticketed during that portion of time until the full reopening, or until at least the lockdown was lifted. But I think that's kind of how specific and detailed we need to go. I mean, I don't know if what you're proposing is relief in perpetuity moving forward. I think that I'd probably be more supportive of something that is specific to those who were facing that penalty during the COVID crisis. So that's as you're contemplating a motion, for example, that's the kind of detail I would like to hear more about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this absolutely during a pandemic, during any sort of emergency. I know a few. What was it, 2 years ago when we had the fires and then the mudslides coming down the hill, people couldn't move their cars then. So I think for this, it would just be for the COVID pandemic. But if we do want to move in perpetuity, it would be simply in response to an emergency action or any sort of disaster or pandemic. I wouldn't want it to be a standing issue for anybody at any time to use.
So if I may, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, sorry.
Yes.
So tonight, I guess I wasn't maybe being explicit enough. The idea is it's not on the agenda to debate what a program might look like tonight. So I think if you want the staff to bring back something, and so when I said give direction, I was thinking more, like a motion to note and receive or note and file this report, but to please bring back an item so that the council's ability to discuss some kind of forgiveness program and what that might look like. That's more appropriate than to try to figure out the parameters and sort of having a back and forth discussion when the public wasn't aware that that was what was going to be discussed tonight. So that was my suggestion. So thank you.
Colleagues?
Am I allowed to make that motion now, or should we wait till the end of the night for new agenda items?
You could make it as a motion to note and file and to bring back.
Yeah.
Councilmember Anthony, if I might, with the Vice Mayor's pleasure, of course. I did have one question or point I'd like to make.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and I apologize for my daughter crying in the background there.
We'd love to listen to that.
So I guess I'm very supportive of that, and thank you, Madam City Attorney, for reining me in. But the one question I would have, if it came back, is if we could get a little more information on the citations that were issued between October 1 and the state's reopening date, and more detail about how many remain unresolved, how many have late fees attached to them. I think that kind of information would be fruitful for further discussion.
No, that's excellent suggestion. And also, obviously, if there are ongoing people that are getting, week after week after week, but anyway. So that'll be for a future discussion. Thank you very much, Madam City Attorney.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move that we note and file and bring back a discussion item at a later date.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Anthony?
Yes.
Councilmember Schultz?
Yes.
Councilmember Springer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Talamantes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Stone, for your input. This is a time for brief council comments, including reporting on council committee assignments. Colleagues, who would like to start? Yes, indeed. Councilmember Anthony.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This past week, I think a lot of us attended the mural unveiling. There was a great art installation at the Hollywood Way, and oh goodness, what was it? Victory or I don't. One of you guys better have the address better. But there's this lovely mural, and we got an artist to come in and do something to honor Armenia and ARTSOC and the Burbank community, and it was just lovely. It was a great attended event. And then on Saturday, I actually went to the first annual Kiwanis Club golf ball drop. If you haven't seen this, what you do is it's basically a raffle kind of thing where you buy a golf ball and they take your golf ball and everybody else's. It was something like 2,600 golf balls. And Burbank Fire Department came down there with the ladder truck, and the guy went all the way up at the top of the ladder, and they dropped the golf balls, and there's like a target in the middle of the grass on John Muir Field. And whichever ball got closest to the target won $5,000. And it was one of the teachers for Sun Valley High School, and Kiwanis of Sun Valley was there. They helped with the donations and putting everything together, and it was just great to see that a local school teacher got this big chunk of change. And then they did this other thing where whoever got the farthest got like a second place bogey prize, and that was a $500 gift certificate. So that was fun. Everyone was there. They had food and music and a great DJ. I wanted to give a shout out to Kiwanis for putting that together. It was a really fun event. It was outdoors. Everyone was safe and distanced. So it was nice to see that kind of public happening again. So thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Next. Councilmember
I can
Schultz.
go next.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'll be brief. On Thursday, July 15th, had a very nice meeting with our former colleague, Councilmember Gable Luddy, just about the Rancho neighborhood and some of the concerns that we're hearing from the community there. On Monday, July 19th, I attended the last session of the Sustainable Burbank Commission, at least is currently composed. We said goodbye to one of our departing commissioners. Great information there about Skip the Stuff, potential ordinance that the commission's further discussing, and may have some recommendations for us down the road, so stay tuned there. Like Councilmember Anthony said, I think most of us were at the mural unveiling. What a really great event. That's at the Nexus store there. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting the cross street, so forgive me. On Tuesday, July 20th, we were all part of that terrific community meeting with the State Senator Anthony Portantino. And if there's anyone still watching at home, I recommend you go back and listen to it. There was some really great discussion. I particularly enjoyed Councilmember Springer talking about housing legislation with the senator. Great stuff there to watch. Also had a call that day with Marva Murphy about rapid rehousing, the city's program, and specifically as it relates to seniors. So good information there. And wrapping up, Thursday, July 22nd, I did attend the Valley Economic Alliance. Nothing significant to report out there for council. Like all of you, I was at the Kiwanis Club event on Saturday. And the last thing I wanted to mention is yesterday I had the pleasure of joining the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Springer at the Chamber to welcome Simple Life Delivery. And I'll let either of them, provide a little more information about it, but it's just what a great local business supporting our local restaurants. It's so great to have them in the community. That's all I have, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Real quick, Mr. Vice Mayor, Nexus Auto Group is on the corner of Burbank Boulevard and Hollywood Way, right across from Dino's Pizza.
Oh, you're awesome.
Thank you.
You're awesome, Councilmember Anthony. Councilmember Springer.
Yes. The ribbon cutting was for Simple Life delivery, and it served local restaurants, not the McDonald's of the world. And they serve the communities of Burbank, Glendale, La Crescenta, and I think La Cañada. And they're brand new. The family has been longtime Burbank residents. It's a Burbank business. And we wish them every success. The golf ball drop, I was there. And Guinea Fest on Saturday. And this morning I called into the County Board of Supervisors meeting in support of the creation of the Blue Ribbon Commission on Homelessness. And I offered or requested, told them we would like a seat at the table and we'd like to provide input on what's working for us, what hasn't worked, the lessons we've learned, and ideas for moving forward effectively and successfully in housing our homeless and preventing homelessness. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to weigh in as well. Now, let me see. We were all in attendance with a meeting with Senator Portantino. Yeah, very productive. A lot of good information went back and forth. Let's see. I listened to a webinar entitled Policy Options for Before Disaster Strikes. A lot of good information there. Obviously, some of it referring to the pandemic, what we can get in place before something like that or a disaster happens. I attended the retirement party for Police Officer Ricardo Penaranda. He'd been a Burbank police officer for 27 years. He was a sheriff for 3 years prior to that, so a total of 30 years of service to our community. So I want to thank him and his family for serving. He's a Burbank resident. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Myself and CDD Director Patrick Prescott met yesterday with Nori Walla and Elisa Cunningham regarding some issues over at the Rancho. And I was in attendance for the ribbon cutting for Simple Life Delivery. The CEO is Trevor Marca. He's a Burbank High graduate. His family and my family, the kids grew up together, so we've known him for a long time. Burbank resident, the family's Burbank residents, mom and dad still live in Burbank. So congratulations to him and much success. Thank you very much. Next item is time for introduction of additional agenda items. Do members of the council have any items to introduce? I've got one. I'd like to request a report to consider a mandatory vaccine policy for city employees, similar to what the cities of Pasadena and San Francisco are doing. And I know I also heard this morning that the city of LA is going to be requesting something. So, Mr. City Manager, would you please take care of that?
Got it. Well, it's on the list. We'll bring it back.
Excellent. And I just have a question, what was posed to me by a couple of residents. What's the status of the arch at the end of Olive?
we'll get you the status by tomorrow. So I know that we're trying to get that done, but we'll.
Because they live up in the area, so they just happen to see them on Sunday. And
you guys are due for an update, and we'll get you one.
great. Okay. Thank you very much. So having no other business, we now adjourn to Tuesday, August 10th, 2021, for a regular meeting. The public may view the meeting online or on television and will be able to provide public comment in the following three ways. By leaving an e-comment on the city webpage, and that would be burbankca.gov/e-comments. The second way is by emailing the city council directly at citycouncil@burbankca.gov. And the third way is by calling indirectly the council meeting at 818-238-3335. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good night. We're adjourned.